What's up? It is week 7 now. 7 weeks into the HFFL season. It's roughly the midway point, I guess, because yeah, there are 14 regular season weeks and 13 regular season matchups. So yeah, it's a pretty good time to look over where teams are at. I have Alex here, and we're gonna go over the trades first real quick. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, what's up?
What's up?
Yeah, good time to look at things. Definitely an interesting week of trades, and really all in the last like 36 hours. So some good
Yeah,
stuff to
yeah,
look at.
yeah. Well, yeah, I'll mention this later, but like, yeah, throughout the season, you definitely kind of see like different modes of trading. Like right now is like the bye week, kind of like coverage, trades with a lot of that, and then it should set up pretty soon for some of the more I think interesting trades. But yeah, let's start with a trade we missed last time, I think. Do you have the sheet up? Yeah,
I
October
do,
9th.
yeah.
Yes, October 9th.
Yep.
New England receives Jalen Warren and Yonkers receives uh, Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard. Yeah, okay. So I think the context of this was after the second of Rico. No, after the first of Rico Dowdle's like crazy games, right? I'll look that up right now. But either way, it was after Rico Dowdle had put up a crazy 200-yard game in Chuba Hubbard's absence. And that probably sets the table a little for why each team kind of made this trade. You want to kind of set up I guess the rationale behind each
Yeah,
team and yeah,
yeah, always an interesting trade when it's like same position, one for one,
yep.
no frills, no bells and whistles.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think maybe this was when Warren like missed a game.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, and then was like gonna have a bye week. So I think it might have been that point also, where like because like Gainwell, you remember like Gainwell had
Yeah.
like a huge
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Whichever one that was, like Warren was out and Gainwell had like 140
Yeah.
yards or something.
I think
Um,
Steelers had a bye week somewhere, and then Warren missed either one or two games like due to injury, or like left one of them
I
early,
think he
and
missed.
then
Well, I think he maybe left early and then missed one, and then they had the bye week, and then he came
right.
back. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, there's two players that are kind of in like injury, sort of injury question marks, and I think for Yonkers it was just kind of showing up like, whatever way the Dowdle Hubbard thing breaks,
Mhm.
you'll at least have
Mhm.
some piece of it
Yep.
that way.
Yep.
Um, and I think Warren was probably like looking like maybe the higher sort of upside potential, just because he had had a few big games and looked like he was kind of dominating the backfield. But could have also with Gainwell kind of coming up and him getting an injury. So both sort of feels like just a one of those trades that's like I kind of want. I like this player better, so I'm
Right.
just
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
gonna grab him.
I think situationally
Uh,
too. For Yonkers, like Rico Dowdle's like performance kind of really does put you in a confusing spot. Like, like you could easily have seen that backfield kind of being Rico's all the way, the rest of the season, after
mhm.
the type of performance he had. But also, like, it's tough to lose a job just straight out due to injury and not like underperformance necessarily. Like Chuba was, not putting up those huge games, but he had tougher matchups, and he was playing pretty well, I thought. So, for Yonkers, it's kind of like minimizing like the downside, like get at least something hopefully that is playable rather than end up with kind of like a situation where uh he's relying on, Dowdle to be the third guy, and then like maybe the Panthers announce like, oh yeah, like Chuba is gonna be back to like number one. Like if they were more clear about what they were gonna do, then Yonkers could have been kind of left in the dark. Also, the context is this is October 9th, so this is actually after Dowdle's first 200-yard game, but before his second 200-yard game. So maybe even more reason for Yonkers to not feel too certain about like, how much staying power Dowdle would have. And like you said, Warren was injured and, Gainwell had just had a big game. So, yeah, it's like a kind of like pivoting to like I guess a safer situation more than necessarily he might not have had a strong opinion on who's better or not, but yeah, that's definitely what um you know uh the rationale was. And it's interesting because I think at least one of these guys is in a trade that happened this week, right? So
Yep.
yep,
Yep.
we'll
Should we
cover
jump
that.
straight to that? You want to jump straight to that
Yeah,
one?
let's just go right into it since it does have a linked piece.
Yeah.
It
So yeah,
is
so 2 weeks later, October 21st, we get Jalen Warren goes from New England to Williston Park,
mhm,
and New England gets Garrett Wilson back. So sort of parlayed Chuba into Garrett Wilson, which if you said that at the
yeah,
like after week one, you'd, you'd be like, wow, how did we get here? How did that happen?
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think this trade on its face, Warren for Garrett Wilson, with the status of all these where everyone is, it feels like pretty kind of fair to me.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
looking at it,
yeah,
like I think I'm sort of flopping back and forth honestly on this one, where I'm
mhm.
like, well, Warren looks really good. Like he looks like he's getting 2/3 of the snaps
Yeah.
there or
The
something like
offense
that.
offense looks livelier than you know
Yeah,
you
offense looks
might
pretty
have.
lively. He's
Yeah.
like breaking tackles. He's running as well as he ever has.
Mhm. Mhm.
And yeah, obviously Garrett Wilson has all these issues. They don't know who the quarterback is. The Jets had like 90 yards last game or something.
Mm.
Like, it's just like you just don't know. You just don't know. But I don't know what. Yeah, the Jets had like such a low number of passing yards in the last couple games. Wilson's also injured. He's out the last game. Like,
Yep.
yeah, it's just so many questions. Like obviously when he's good, and he's like in top 20, top 15
Yep.
when he's good. But I just don't know the rest of this year for the Jets offense. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it could be pretty dark. So
Yeah.
I think getting out of the Jets, not a move that Williston Park often does, but I think the timing is pretty good here.
Very true. The Jets are an interesting team because, like, really every week to week, it's so inconsistent, right? Like, you're not kind of like there's no baseline for what like a minimum you're gonna get out of that offense is. Like week one, it looked very good and like explosive,
Yeah, right.
and,
They
yeah,
had 30 points,
there are
touchdowns.
weeks where it looks ugly, but then like the numbers kind of like save themselves, and then there have also been games where um the garbage time never comes and it doesn't save itself, right? So uh that's got to be a frustrating experience to kind of go week to week and not have a consistent idea of really what to expect. It's been the whole range of outcomes. And I guess like the other context is that with bye weeks, I think each team, has slightly more of a need for, a running back versus a wide receiver, which I think also helped this trade come together. I do think it's like pretty fair, right? Like even though I would say it's like very different ways in that like each player is like valued. Like one is like super inconsistent, but the talent, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, Garrett Wilson is a top 15 uh wide receiver in the league through talent, but the inconsistency probably makes him more frustrating even than owning Warren. So yeah, interesting trade to see the name value moving, but if you like look at it closely, it kind of ends up like making a lot more sense than you would think, right?
That's exactly how I feel. It's like first glance is like, well, how are these guys in the same tier now? But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Just it feels like good trade. Yeah, and totally agree. I think that it kind of fits the team needs too,
Hmm.
where New England has pretty good chance to get two good running backs in there
Yeah.
every week, and Yeah, Wilson Park definitely needs for it to cover the bye weeks and everything. Could use an extra guy. So,
Just
and with Ben been injured too. So,
yep. Just
uh,
opinion. Who would you rather have? Who's gonna have a better second half of the season between Jalen Warren and Garrett Wilson? Obviously, they're different positions, so it's hard to
like just who's gonna have more fantasy points the rest of the way.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think I'd actually take Warren. I'm very skeptical of this Jets passing game
Hmm.
and of the potential to just kind of be small injuries are going to linger with a team that just is not
Yeah,
competitive at
yeah.
all.
The
So I think
the
I'm a
vibe
little bit.
check the vibe check I think severely is worse on the Garrett Wilson side. Like it feels like it could get even uglier and like kind of like all out like dysfunction could like it's already kind of dysfunctional, but like even more all out dysfunction could spread, which isn't a great thing you want for any of your fantasy assets. So I would be a little bit more nervous about having Garrett Wilson, but yeah. In the end, I do understand like, you're taking an upside shot, and obviously the positional needs are in a way where I think it makes sense for both teams. But I do agree that I think I would probably take Jalen Warren by a little bit if I had to uh give a
Yeah,
give a
yeah,
stance.
that's where I'm just by I think just by a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, cool trade. Really good one.
Yep.
So nice. I like it for both teams. And I think overall, I think probably both teams might have got better doing this. So
Yeah.
so I like it.
Yeah. I think that's probably pretty true. Just pretty good find because the context a little bit beyond what we just talked about is also Wilson Park was at like 240-ish or a 340-ish in salary, and Garrett Wilson obviously makes or has like a 41 salary, and Jalen Warren has a much smaller salary. So I think in that sense, uh, Wilson Park will be able to switch out defenses and bid on waivers without really having to you know uh, check
Yeah,
his
it doesn't
salary as
just
tightly. Yeah.
yeah.
So really just a pretty you know good trade where I think both teams are getting what they want. So yeah, just nothing too big, but I think uh, probably bigger than a lot of the other trades we'll probably cover. So that was pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely the biggest trade of the week for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
We'll just go one spot above and cover the LIC Orange County trade. Definitely not a big trade, but kind of interesting in terms of the context of who Orange County has in relation to DJ Giddens and yeah. Do you want to I guess state the trade and then
yep. Yeah, so this one is LIC receives DJ Giddens and Orange County gets back one fab. So basically the minimum, you can you can trade.
yep.
I think Giddens has like a guaranteed contract also, like maybe a $2 guarantee, so
Yeah.
so you can't just cut it.
Mhm.
You can, but you pay a little bit. So, yeah, I think obviously Giddens doesn't really play. Taylor plays every snap, so pretty much. So, um,
Yep.
it's really this is a two-pronged bet, I guess. One is that Taylor maybe gets injured this year, or maybe changes teams or something
Mhm.
next year, and then
Mhm.
get something. It's a small price to pay. I think when you have a team, if you've got open roster space,
Yep.
taking a guy like this, it kind of makes sense to me. The upside's pretty high.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Colts have a great offensive line and a great system for running, and I
Yep.
I, I, I firmly believe that if Giddens got a shot in that lineup, he'd be a good player. So.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I think it's okay. It's an okay trade. I think good makes sense for Duho. I think just to open up the roster space and get to
Mhm.
maneuver a little bit more, especially if you want to carry a bunch of defense. It's hard to carry all the defenses and go into the bye week.
Yeah,
And
he's just making more
um,
space for defenses, I think.
yeah. You need some open spots to deal with the bye weeks and everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's a, I think it makes sense. I think, I don't mind holding someone like that on a
Right.
roster.
Yeah, yeah. I think like, people a lot of times kind of like, think the shelf life of just NFL players in general is sometimes longer than realize. Like obviously Jonathan Taylor might be like the front runner for, MVP in our fantasy league right now, but especially at the running back position, like things can change, really fast. And then it wouldn't be like him falling off and just like sucking, but like, God forbid a serious injury and all of a sudden like, good offensive line, young guy that, maybe has some talent. It's not the worst kind of really cheap flyer to speculate on for a little bit until, you need that roster spot for something else or, you feel like something else is worth holding. So, one fab is like you said, the least you can pay to kind of take a shot on that. And I think the other context for OC is um it doesn't really necessarily look like DJ Giddens um would be the backup or even, like there's really no indication that um JT going down would give him a startable DJ Giddens necessarily. And Orange County is really decked out with depth, right? Like they still have Bucky Irving on their IR. Aaron Jones is going to come
Absolutely.
back. Like uh, obviously those guys aren't as good as Jonathan Taylor, but they might honestly just outright be better options than, whatever split they would give him, even if give Giddens, even if Jonathan Taylor did get injured, right? So um if Duo didn't have as much, running back depth and just overall depth on his team, I think it would make more sense to kind of just hold on to Giddens just to kind of give yourself one more out on like, the doomsday situation where JT gets injured or anything. But I think how his team is structured, it really kind of just makes sense for him to ship Giddens out and use that spot on either, defenses or stuff that he'll actually uh you know think about playing at some point.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's sort of insured at running back. You don't need a handcuff if you kind of have insurance
Right.
just in
Yeah. Yeah.
having good
Yeah.
players on your bench.
Yeah.
So
I think that's gonna be the context, like, of why would you trade like, the running back on the same team as like your star running back? The answer is because, like he just has like 4 or 5 pretty startable running backs as it is. Like Kenneth Walker doesn't start every week. Bucky Irving will eventually come back, and Aaron Jones. So those are all like names that he would probably consider before um, thrusting in a DJ Giddens anyway. So
hmm
just
hmm
goes to show how much depth OC has, and it is actually kind of ridiculous where teams are throwing out like Kenneth Gainwell or Kareem Hunt, in their starting lineups, and um, you know OC is just stacked with depth in
Yep.
case of injuries too. Yeah,
Yep.
and then
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah, we could go on
Next.
to the Chargers defense for one fab. Just really quick. There's not really much to say. I will just load up the matchups to see who they play. The Chargers play Thursday night this week. Is that right?
Yeah, they play Minnesota on Thursday.
Mm,
They're home for Minnesota, which is not, Minnesota obviously has had some trouble blocking this year because it's
yeah.
pretty good. Maybe the Chargers defense looked awful this week,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
sometimes there's a one game lapse and they've looked pretty
Right.
good
Yeah,
in the seasons.
yeah. Quite, yeah,
Um,
yeah. It doesn't strike me as like really a strong defense to trade for, but it is just one fab, and it could even be like a
yeah,
situation where you trade for the Chargers defense and then sometimes you just place claims into that um even like the Charger spot that you just traded for, and if you get outbid for the ones that you like a little bit better than the Chargers, then like if
Well, and
they're
they also they've got Tennessee next week too. So that's
okay, yeah.
this could be a 2 week investment here.
Right, right. Actually, yeah, that's probably the better context.
Yeah,
It is
maybe you're even trading for next week,
right, yeah, and then you're dropping someone else maybe to pick up.
the waivers are a little grim. Then we talked about this last week. The
Yeah,
waivers on defenses are a little grim again this week. So,
yeah, yeah,
uh, it's like you're definitely you're taking a chance on somebody if you have to go to waivers this week. So,
yeah, for sure.
I don't hate it. I think I think startable for 2 weeks for one fab is a pretty good
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, and the matchup next week is probably alone worth one fab if you can spare the roster spot, even if
Yep,
you have different plans for this week. So good
agreed.
context on what their upcoming matchups are.
All right, and then our last trade of the week. This is a three-teamer.
Hmm.
Kind of an interesting trade here, I think, from all perspectives. But we'll start with Wilson Park is getting Cavante Turpin,
Hmm.
and then they're also getting two fab from Orange County, and they're getting a round three 2026 round three pick from Orange County, which is the LIC round three pick. So
Hmm.
I'll just say from. So that's going to Wilson Park, and they're sending out Brandon Ayuk,
Yep.
and they got Turpin from Yonkers. Um, and so OC is getting Brandon Ayuk, and they're sending out four fab and the third round draft pick. And Yonkers is ending up getting two fab, which got essentially got routed from Wilson Park and they're sending out Turpin. So
Yep.
it's sort of two fab for Turpin and then four fab and the third round pick for Ayuk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's
if you break it down that way.
yep. What do you?
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
kind of
What?
interesting. A few angles to look at this from.
Yeah. What is? I mean, obviously, you don't know, but like, what is your opinion of what is Ayuk this year? Like, it's been so vague in terms of like timeline, right? Like,
Yeah,
it is a
yeah.
late injury, and then like he wasn't really doing that well last year, and kind of seemed like maybe not in Shanahan's good graces, but also he has a pretty big contract because he signed it like right before he basically got hurt, and the 49ers did trade away Debo and stuff. So like, in theory, if Ayuk does come back and looks good, like that's definitely a piece worth um stashing. But it feels a little weird about like the messaging they're sending out. Like I don't know. Kyle Shanahan kind of is just kind of like weird and hard to read anyway, so he might not have anything behind like the way he's been talking about Ayuk, but um definitely you could interpret it as like, kind of murky, and he doesn't sound too excited to have Ayuk back, which, isn't too good. What's your read on the Ayuk situation basically?
Yeah, I don't feel like you're gonna end up getting a lot from him
Mhm.
this year.
Yep.
I think you never know with these things,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
my interpretation is like it's like ACL. Um, Usually guys come back, it takes a little while, right?
Yep.
Like you're not at 100% right when you come back, especially in football. I think you kind of you talk about the year
Yeah.
after or
Yeah.
whatever, like it takes a little while. It's hard to see him coming in week 10, and this is not like a super dynamic passing offense,
Mhm.
and that when you take out McCaffrey with the McCaffrey yards, like there's not that
Yeah,
much
yeah.
left really.
Yeah.
um so like I don't really see him being like
Mhm.
that playable unless you have a bunch of bye weeks or something at
Yeah.
the same time. Um, but the thing is it is a guy you can put on your IR, so
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't
That I
necessarily
think
fill out
I
your
think
spot.
that's really the crux of this trade, and kind of what happened last week with the Godwin trade where I had
Mhm.
open IR spot and it was getting annoying, like kind of shuffling in like Kamara in there, and then like I'm starting Kamara like most weeks, so like I don't really have
Right,
like
it's gonna be
an
turned into an asset of some
right.
sort.
So I'm guessing this is pretty much the exact same thinking from OC.
And the
Like,
price is actually quite similar, right? Because it's four fab, and then the round three pick is like a, usually those end up going for like somewhere between two and four fab
yeah,
most of the time. So
yeah. I
uh,
would say LIC round three pick. Um, just because where their record is probably one of
true,
the
and it's gonna be in the top half
yeah,
probably.
it could be premium. Like I think every, round 2, round 3, everything at the beginning of each round feels like it's always
Hmm.
like a little bit more premium because you're getting like the cheapest version of or the best player of that tier of salary, I guess. So I would say this is probably maybe a little bit more of a uh not overpay, but like slightly higher price than Godwin went for
Yep,
maybe, but
yep.
it
I
is
agree. I agree.
yeah, it is comparable for sure. The round 3 picks have gone for, 2 or 3 fab depending on um, who's available and who's picking at the time, right? So it's definitely in the same neighborhood.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean the context is basically the same idea, I think. Just especially when you're 6-1, you can kind of take big swings and slightly bigger risks and kind of shoot for just straight upside. And there's the upside case where Parasol hasn't really shown an ability to stay healthy. Kittle has his health concerns and stuff. Like it could just be the roulette thing where like you're going into a playoff week and Ayuk has been back for, 3 or 4 weeks and every other wide receiver there is like dead, right? Like that's so conceivable for how the 49ers
Yeah,
receiving room
great
seems
point.
to go, right? So like that's
If
probably
Kendrick Bourne can have a 20 fantasy point game,
exactly. Yeah.
probably David Ayuk on one leg can have a 20 fantasy
Yeah,
point game.
exactly. Yeah, not I don't think he's gonna be like a good wide receiver necessarily, but the opportunity could just be there in a given week. Um, if the injuries, hold out and, OC is really not losing anything too valuable to take a shot on that. It is basically the same idea as the Godwin thing. Like for
Yep,
Godwin,
I think
it's
it's very
like Evans gets hurt, which, he did. Ibuka had a hamstring at the time. A lot of guys are banged up, so I don't necessarily think Godwin's going to be, you know, in his prime form at any point this year. He honestly might get shut down like himself, like because he's hurt himself, but uh, you know, pretty at least like above average passing offense where if everyone else is dead, um, there are worse options to play than a guy that is gonna at least be one of the more primary targets if the injuries and like depth chart is in your favor in a given week. So pretty much I think exactly the same story here. Do you have any insight on Turpin? Is Turpin I actually
I I don't think I mean I think unless somebody else gets unless Pickens or Lamb get
right,
injured,
yeah,
I don't think there's a lot there, but
yeah,
yeah, I don't not a guy that I'm especially excited about. Like I think
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, Cowboys offense is sick, but like I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I'd probably take I think unless there's another injury, I'd probably take my chances on whoever's on with people on waivers or
Right,
whatever
yeah.
like
I'm like looking at his game log. The 19th, he had one target, one reception, 17 yards. Um, the game before, the 40-40 OT against Green Bay, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 30 yards. Like, yeah, I don't really see much there, so I am a little confused as to um why Yonkers was really rostering him still, kind of, and also why
Hmm.
Williston Park rerouted to Fab to to get Turpin, right? Like maybe I'm missing something on like uh how the Cowboys offense like is structured and stuff because I don't super pay attention to that team. But yeah, a little confusing from both sides, but ultimately it's just to fab, and this also could be a situation like I said, where you trade for a guy and then you'll place claims into that spot to see if you get something better. And sometimes you'll just get outbid on like all your stuff. So
Yeah.
better to have a body than nobody. But
And just looking at the Wilson Park roster, they do have like like McLaurin
yeah,
is
yeah, no, they're definitely yeah,
maybe in maybe out, so you just kind of gives you an extra a backup plan
right,
for
yeah,
this week.
definitely, yeah, definitely get that rationale. Just a little confused as to why Turpin was still rostered, but I may
Yeah,
not
yeah.
have the context on
He
like
also well he also was in IR for a little bit, so maybe he was in the IR spot. I'm
yeah,
not sure.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
close,
true.
but he might not.
It might have,
Sometimes
yeah.
he just
I think it was probably like speculating on who steps up when while CD's out, and it turned out to really be just Jake Ferguson and Pickens
yeah. And
even
Flower
more.
Flower Noy had that one. Yeah, Flower Noy
Yeah,
had that one
yeah.
big game.
And Tolbert had a little, I mean, like a little bit of like so. I'm sure it was like a shot in the dark, and then like he was IR eligible, so you just don't drop him. Not sure, how he even came up in trade talks this week, so that's a little bit confusing. But ultimately, it is it is it is the bottom of
Who
the
asked who? You think who called who
yeah.
about Cavante?
Also, I mean, Amari Cooper was on the roster of Wilson Park for
Yeah, 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 yeah.
for
Fair
for
enough.
multiple
Fair enough.
weeks. So in comparison, Cavante Turpin, not bad. I think he gets some
Yeah.
return yards too. So like, it's better than taking zero. And I would bet that they do place some claims into that spot, and it's kind of like, oh, if I get boxed out for all the guys I like, then it's better than nothing. So yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, nothing much I think to talk about other than that for that trade. Yeah, I think this is who's on bye this week. Just some decent teams, right?
The Lions
Lions,
are on
yeah.
bye. The Raiders. Let's see, bye week 8. There's
Oh
some
yeah,
good. There's some other good teams.
yeah.
Seahawks,
There's 6 teams on
Rams,
bye.
Jaguars, Colts.
6 teams on bye. So this is the week with the most teams on bye. I think every other week has 4 teams or 2 teams on bye, right? So this is probably
Yeah,
as thick
this
as
is
it
the biggest
gets.
one.
I honestly think we could see like a couple more trades before Sunday, because I think teams are still kind of sorting out their buys and like injuries and stuff.
Yeah, getting quarter. This is sort of the tough quarterback week too, right?
Yep.
Because of the
Yeah. Yeah.
one.
This
One-
was probably the early stuff that kind of either was getting cooked a little bit longer, or needed to happen by this time to kind of let a team work waivers. But I would bet that there's at least a couple more trades between now and Sunday for the bye week. So yeah, interested to see if anything real kind of moves like the Warren or Wilson trade, or is it going to be more shuffling of the low end guys. So that should be something interesting to look out for. When we take a look next
Yeah.
week.
What week? Do you know what off the top of your head what week is the trade deadline?
The NFL trade deadline or the
No,
HF?
no, our HFFL trade deadline.
After week 10, before week 11, I believe. So right
Okay.
now
Well,
it's
we got
set. We're
three more
between seven and
trading
eight.
periods
Yeah, we're
here.
between 7 and 8. So three weeks until the trade deadline,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, I think either next week or 2 weeks later is when I think a lot of like talks will start. Cooking for sell trades and buy trades, and it should be interesting to see who are the guys that are pushing in and who are the guys selling, because
Hmm.
it really does feel kind of
Hmm.
like Orange County is by a comfortable margin, I think, in the best position right now in terms of record, and just how strong their team is, obviously. And then everyone else kind of is like, do you justify like even like the teams that are like 3 and 4? Do you justify buying, or is it kind of like a hold, or even and then even the 2 and 5 teams, like there is a path where they in 2 weeks they could be a lot closer than they are right now, just because one team is separating themselves, and then I'm a 5-2 team with a lot of buys like this week and next week. I think Yonkers has a lot of buys and they're 5-2. It could be a little bit murkier than you think in 2 weeks. So yeah, it should be interesting to see how the matchups shake out and which teams are selling and buying, because I think Jonathan Taylor going early really kind of like that was kind of gonna be one of the more attractive pieces, just because of his salary and how well he's playing. So it is interesting to see if maybe Duo was smart to kind of like you know really go early, and it might discourage people from um kind of buying, because they're like, oh, like the most attractive piece that would have been nice to fit in is gone, and OC really kind of looks like they have pole position. It's gonna definitely make people think like, which way am I going? And yeah, I think that's like very unique to like OC. Like they're very aggressive, and I think it could give them a positive effect in terms of just boxing out other teams in the trade market. So should be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, yeah, it feels like a juggernaut right now. Really, 200 point week after week after week. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
definitely feels tough. But, HFFL, you never want to peak too early.
Yeah.
It's happened
Yeah.
many times.
Happens a lot,
Um,
and even like thinking like, oh, like no matchup is like a gimme. Like I mean, we saw like
mhm,
LIC beat who did they beat? Yonkers, and Wilson Park beat Harlem. There really is no gimme weeks, so like you kind of have to play it out. That's my advice. Like you kind of have to play it out a lot more than you think. A lot of
mhm,
people tend to be like, oh, like Virginia's playing like Harlem, OC, like whatever. Like those could all be wins. Those could all be losses. So could game. Like it is really a week to week thing. So I think to be fair, our league has adjusted, and people aren't getting ahead of themselves too much anymore. But there was definitely like last year or like 2 years ago, or a short period where people are like, oh, this team is schedule is too easy to not make the playoffs, or this team's schedule is too tough to make the playoffs. And then it turns out,
right,
I mean,
right.
you made the playoffs last year. So
Yeah,
um
right. Totally.
so
With a skeleton.
yeah,
So,
exactly. So yeah, I think it'll keep yeah, the whole buy sell decision is like really tough and interesting. So really looking forward to seeing how people handle that.
yeah, me too. Me
Okay.
too.
All right.
All right. Well,
Thanks for coming
yeah.
on and covering these trades. I am really kind of excited for when we have a lot of like more contentious trades to talk
Mhm,
about, because
mhm.
we got, I mean, it wasn't even that contentious last week, but we did get a little bit of spice and
A little
opinions
bit.
opinions on yeah.
And be fun to see what happens. I think
Yeah.
that I think it'll be really like as far as the tension of the league. If we get like starts looking like a two horse race
Mhm.
with Virginia and Orange County, I think we'll get a lot of
Mm.
tension in
Mm.
the chat. So that's always fun.
Yeah. It's all in good fun though. Like I don't think anyone was like, actually mad. It's just
No, no.
kind of, yeah, it's just kind of like, oh wow, like this is a narrative that's happening again, and like, like, or it kind of just feeds into itself, but I don't think anyone is like, there was a point where I think people were a little too salty about like things, but I think we're actually at a pretty good point where it's within the confines of the game. So I'm sure you weren't worried about it, but I wouldn't worry about you know, people not liking trades or liking trades or whatever. It is, all for fun anyway. So,
All right.
all
Yeah.
right.
Let's call it here. So good yeah, good week and good luck everyone this week.
Yep. Thanks for coming on. Peace.
All right. See you later.